We're self-sealing stem bolts.
We're always in the middle of some kind of weird conversation when we go live. So, that's our brand. That's what we
It
do.
is. Yeah,
Oh,
and
hey,
I'm
we're
comfortable.
live.
Hello.
How's it going today, everyone? I'm Dan Gunther. This is Brandy Jackala. You're in the Unready room. We're unready as usual. And going to be talking about a new episode of Star Trek Discovery. So welcome. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're a return viewer, welcome to you as well. Love to see all the regular faces in the chat again, as usual. Hey, everyone. And hello to everyone who's watching us later after we've gone live. So welcome to everyone.
Yeah, there's one thing that I wanted to do before we really get started, and I didn't really have time to tell you about this prior to starting, but
Okay.
I just need to pimp a friend because I have a friend. A lot of you know her, Suzanne Williamson. She does stained glass creations, and I recently received this thing that I ordered. It's really difficult at this reflection of my screen.
Am I
Sorry
able
about that.
to? Let me see. I can at least do this.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's that would be Pike's Enterprise up in there. And that's not all I got. I also got, because, it's what I'm into.
Oh, beautiful.
But yeah, I received them both today and had to show them off and tell everybody to go to her Etsy store, which is Stained Sass, and order things because they're glorious. And each thing she creates, it's one of a kind because no two pieces are exactly alike. So, and
that's really cool.
I love my things. Oh, she's in the chat. Hi, Suzanne.
Hey, there she is. Yeah.
You better recognize that. It was just at your house a few days ago.
Excellent.
And she sent a bunch of Star Trek stickers along with it, which are now all on the outside of my computer. So,
oh, that's amazing. That's really cool.
I needed those because I didn't have enough stickers. It was just looking very bare.
Yeah.
So thank you, Suzanne. You're awesome. I love your work.
That's awesome. I haven't gotten any for myself, unfortunately, but I do see, Suzanne, when you post images of all of them, and they are absolutely gorgeous. Really, really amazing work. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I am very impressed. They are even more beautiful when you see them in person. So video doesn't do them justice.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to put in an order for one at some point for sure. I think, I could do something back here with something. I think that would be
definitely good. Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So season 3, episode 6, Scavengers. Almost like a Voyager-esque or a TNG-esque title, which is interesting. That the one-word title, kind of going back to the 90s Star Trek there, which just kind of occurred to me now. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So this episode, let's see, what do I want to start with? I think I want to start with the burn, because this is kind of shaping up to be the kind of main mystery of the season so far. There's a bunch of other small mysteries, but the big question seems to be what caused the burn? What made this happen? We get a few more data points in this episode. I guess Burnham has found a couple of black boxes that indicate that it didn't happen simultaneously across the galaxy, that it may have a point of origin, because there's a bit of discrepancy as to when the various starships went offline. And, if they have a third one, they can triangulate a point of origin for the burn. So, what are you thinking of this mystery and the progress we've made thus far in sussing it all out?
Well, I knew the minute I saw the trailer for this season that spoke about the burn that this was going to be a season-long mystery. And I think it's, I know that there are people who don't like it. I'm not one of those people. I want to know what happened. I want to know the answer. But they've given us so little bits of information so far, but that's actually okay with me
Mhm.
because we're getting it's not the focus of every episode. It's an underlying thing that's running through the entire current of this series, this season. I was doing the British thing by saying series. And it's influencing a lot of things indirectly. But I think that Michael is right that the Federation and Starfleet can't really heal until they know the cause. Because once you know the cause, you can also prevent.
Mhm.
And once they have a way to prevent, then nobody has to be afraid to use what dilithium is out there. However, they really do need to find another energy source because dilithium was becoming quite rare before the burn even happened.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with this as being like kind of the central mystery of the season. I will say I'm not at that level of excitement for it yet, which is it's one of those things that like we're kind of hamstrung with the fact that we're seeing a little piece of a much larger story. The way this story is, it's one big long season long or series long if you're from across the pond story. And we don't have the benefit of getting it all at once. We're getting it piece by piece. So and I know like cognitively I know there's going to be some moment coming up in this season where I go, oh my gosh, that's what this is all about. Now I'm really invested in finding out what this is all about. I'm just like, I'm not experiencing that right now. And I'm kind of, as an audience member, I'm in the place of the Admiral right now, where like, well, unless you've got some really compelling piece of evidence, it doesn't really make a difference right now. Now I know that compelling piece of evidence is going to come at some point. So, I just got to be patient, but
yeah,
yeah.
well, see, I think that is by design.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
So they're not expecting us to be just up nights trying to figure out what the burn is and why it started. Don't
I,
make assumptions.
I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not like advertising this too much with my body language or something. But interesting and maybe somewhat astute. But we'll get to that. We'll get to
Mm.
that.
Mm. To each their
And,
own, I suppose.
okay, I'll lay it all out here right now. It's not that I didn't like this episode. I enjoyed the episode. I really did. It's just the last two episodes have been such a pinnacle for me, and this one I just felt was a little step back. That's all. I did enjoy the episode. It's just that it had the misfortune of following on 2 hours that I think were some of the best hours of Star Trek. I don't know compared to what, but in a long time to me, I don't know. I loved those two episodes. So
Yeah,
that's all.
I understand that. The thing about storytelling, though, is not every episode can be that.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And like I
And
said, it's just the pure misfortune of getting me so pumped. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's all.
well, see, I thought that there were a lot of interesting moments in this episode for more than one character
Mm-hmm.
that I think people didn't may have missed because they were so focused on not another prison break plot. Let me explain something. All plots have been done. Everything has been done before, and it's how you recombine elements to try to make it different for whatever it is you're adapting it for. But there are only so many stories that you can tell. And so, yeah, eventually something's going to feel a little familiar, something we may have seen before. But at the same time, we're also telling a story about people seeing injustice and doing something about it, like immediately and
Mm-hmm.
kind of violently as well. But, you know, there was just, I feel like there was more to unpack than just what people seem to be taking away from it initially.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my feeling. But then
Okay.
I've had the
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just saying I had the benefit of seeing it a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
No, a week ago, actually. And no, it was a couple of weeks ago. This is episode 6. Yes. I had the benefit of seeing it a couple of weeks ago and then seeing it again when it premiered, because the resolution between the screeners and the actual broadcast, the broadcast is a much higher resolution. Plus, I get to have subtitles, and that makes a difference too. So I've had the benefit of being able to sit with it longer and to think about it longer than everyone who just barely watched it 2 days ago. So I
Mhm.
know that, you know, I'm a little bit further along in my personal evaluation of the episode than most people.
Okay. It's interesting you say that, because I've been kind of staying away from what a lot of people have been saying online. So I'm not even sure what the issue with the Prison Break plot is. I didn't have a big
That
issue
it's
with that.
been done, basically. It's like, well, of course it's been done.
Okay.
Everything's been done.
Okay.
But
I mean,
that's the thing I heard the most.
okay. That wasn't my issue at all with the episode, but that's interesting that's a sentiment out there. And I guess I can see that. I never really thought of that, but
Mm.
I guess that is a pretty common trope for sure. But in any case, that's what we've got here. So we get this um, Burnham. Well, the ship shows up with Grudge on it. Like, I mean, let's talk about Grudge, the queen, for a moment, because she's pretty magnificent in this episode.
Yeah.
I loved, and I think I really noticed it the second time I watched the episode, when, you know, the view screen activates and it's Grudge until he says Grudge, and like everybody on the bridge turns towards Tilly, like, you know, this cat.
Yeah, I know,
I just
right?
really loved that moment for some reason.
It's like, how do you know the cat? Uh,
Uh, um. So yeah, Grudge. I don't know. I've seen like pushes online for her to get credited in the opening credits or something. I'm like, okay. I don't think that's how that works, but cool. I like that she's
mhm.
got a pretty big role in the show. And I think she and Tilly have a nice moment together too, which is fun.
Yeah, it is amusing to see Mary Wiseman pretend to not like cats because she loves cats. She has a cat, so she definitely really does love cats. And I
Yeah,
think she did really, really well at being very not happy with the cat. So,
absolutely. It's funny you
except,
say that, because I didn't know that she liked cats, but I had a suspicion. Like, even watching this, I'm like, I bet you she loves cats.
well, the way that she picks up the cat is a big sign.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and also an actor wouldn't be as comfortable in that scene as she is, you know,
yeah,
doing that with if she didn't love cats. So, but
yeah.
yeah, Grudge is pretty amazing and definitely a big presence in the episode. Call out to the line, "Did you eat her?"
hmm
when Tilly can't find Burnham, of course. Got to point
Yeah.
that out.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that was actually my little screen name for Infinite Trek earlier today. Did you eat her?
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got this possible mission to Argith. The Discovery might have to jump to deal with the Emerald Chain. So when Burnham goes to Saru to say, like, oh, Book's in trouble, plus, I mean, I got to get this black box because of this, this, and this, Saru turns her down and says, no, we need to be ready to jump. We're not going to do this. I'm not going to approach the Admiral with this. You have your orders dismissed, kind of thing. And Burnham very quickly goes to Giorgio and says, we're going to go on an unsanctioned mission, take Book's ship, and go rescue Book. So interesting character turn for her. The one reaction online that I did watch, and I really agree with this, is a minor character quibble. It was Ketwalski's video, and he was talking about how this situation really parallels what happened last week. Burnham has a roadblock in front of her, an idea of what she wants to accomplish. And she, you know, manages to, within the rules and within Saru and the Admiral's consent, manage to get that done. after, she gets a little bit of a dressing down by Saru. This week, kind of same idea. She's turned down by Saru and very quickly goes to the unsanctioned mission thing, which I think fits her character, but also feels like a bit of a step back for her. And it's meant to be a step back for her, obviously. Like, I think this is a stumble in the journey she's on, and jumping right to the end of the episode, that moment where she removes her badge is very telling because of the person she's become over the last year. So, I see where they're going with the character. Again, to me, it's unfortunate. It's just sandwiched right out, like back to back with this episode with a very similar situation in which I'm like applauding everything she did. And then in this one where I'm like, oh no, don't do that,
All I can say is I know where the character is going because I've seen the next 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't comment on that. All I can say is...
And I would not ask you to.
No, of course not.
For sure.
So, but that's the thing, is that we infer a lot into her action of taking off the badge. And I don't necessarily think it means what you think it means.
Okay, what do you think I think it means? Because I've not said what I think it means.
I think you think that it means that she is thinking she's going to leave.
I wouldn't say that. I would say she's questioning her role right now, and because I'm thinking back to her conversation with Giorgio a couple episodes ago, where Giorgio's like, "You're not used to this. You're not used to the strictures and all that kind of stuff," and she's feeling out her place right now and feeling like, how do I put it? She's chafing against being right back in Starfleet and at serving at the whim of other people, I guess. And I don't think she's wanting to leave. I think she's just frustrated and reacting against that, if that makes sense.
I think that she made a mistake when she accepted the first officer position. That's what I think. I think that she knew, whether it was conscious or not, I think she knew she was not ready for that she couldn't just throw herself right back into everything after a year of not being beholden to anyone but herself. But I think she did it out of loyalty and out of, again, some kind of expectations of herself and the expectations others have of her.
She's a responsibility hoarder.
Exactly. It's in line with that whole thing. She's a responsibility hoarder. So, but I think that in this case, she did make a mistake by accepting to be the first officer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. And I'm curious to see where that all goes. I understand the difficulty because I basically can't speculate because of what you've seen. So I can't bounce things off you and get your reaction, which is unfortunate. So anyway, okay, let's talk about Giorgio then. So Giorgio agrees to go on this mission. I'm assuming, okay, I thought you were frozen.
Oh, here I am.
you had this, like, what was it? It was when I said I can't bounce ideas off of you, and your face went like this. You're like, and then it just like froze, like. And it took me about 3 or 4 seconds to realize, like, I thought you were just being like really smug. It was really
no,
funny.
I wasn't being smug at all. I was frozen. It happens at least once. Always.
Oh, that was
at least
great.
Once, even though the router's right there, like 2 feet away from the end of my finger that I'm pointing with.
I gotta say, at least on my end, you're much clearer than you were about 10 minutes ago. So,
ooh, well then, spiffy me.
Okay, so what I was saying is we should talk a little bit about Giorgio, because we've got this rogue mission, and she says, "You had me at unsanctioned mission." Nice little bit of colloquialism there.
Yeah.
She goes on this mission, and we get a little bit of kind of what we had at the end of the last episode, where she was frozen, and kind of not responsive. This time we see what she's seeing a little bit, and it's kind of they seem like flashbacks. I don't know for sure if that's what they are, but they seem like it. We see what, and I did not use the closed captioning because they're a real pain in the butt on Crave. And I didn't freeze frame through these, but what I saw when I watched it a few times through was we see the Terran Empire logo. We see bloody hands, a bloody body, a bloody dagger lying on the ground on the second time she kind of goes through it. And she says what I think she says son. Am I correct? Okay.
She says son.
Oh.
S-A-N, son.
Ah, okay. All right. I think I can be forgiven for thinking that. Okay.
No, you absolutely can. Because the first time that we watched it as a screener, we did not have subtitles. And so I was really looking forward to seeing the episode with subtitles so I could suss out what it was she actually said.
Yeah.
And it is son.
Okay. So Mark, thank you. I'm going to just put that up there for all to see. Okay, so when the next episode of Positively Trek comes out on Monday, there's going to be a chunk of that's incorrect. So anyway. Yeah, so one of the observations I had, and I really love, how do I put this? I've not been the hugest fan of Mira Georgiou, just like as a person. I don't think you're necessarily supposed to be. She's not the greatest person. Yeah. This is one of the first times I felt like a deep sympathy for her. And it's right at the end when she's talking to Burnham about this, and she's up front and they have a very frank conversation. And Burnham says, how long has this been happening? She says a couple weeks, and I can't let anybody know. I can't reach out to anybody. And she says, we're not in your universe. A vulnerability is not a death sentence. And Georgiou is like a survivor of an abusive relationship, but the abusive relationship is with her universe, which is wild. And in that moment, I was like, wow, yeah, I really feel for her at that moment, because for her, any sign of weakness is a knife in her back. Like there's just the sharks circling no matter what. And, obviously she's pretty horrible in the things she did, but she's also a product of where she comes from. And, if she hadn't have done those things, as we saw, she was in the process of getting overthrown by Lorca, who accused her of being too soft and too coddling of aliens. So, like, how much worse would Lorca be in that universe, for example? Like, I don't know. I still think she's not a great person, but I definitely felt sympathy for her.
Well, yeah. And when she's scared, I mean, we haven't seen her truly scared before. Now we have. And she covers it up by being absolutely horrible to everyone, especially the people that she knows love her, such as Michael. Because I remember the Georgiou on Esau 4, who right before Michael went out to basically die in that chair, Georgiou stopped her, just put a hand on her shoulder and had this, she communicated so much in just a look. I remember that Georgiou too. And they are the same person, but she covers up what she has been taught as weakness with anger and vile comments and distrust, because that's all she knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, I won't ask where any of this is going or anything like that, but I think it's interesting, and I think at this point there's not enough, especially knowing what she actually said there. I don't think there's nearly enough to kind of speculate on anything based on this, but it's clear something is wrong with her. I feel like it's related to her conversation with Kovich, because it's so followed on from it last episode. So I don't know what that would be, but it's interesting. And maybe that's part of my frustration with this episode. Again, not my dislike of the episode. I enjoyed the episode, but my frustration again is just that we're getting this little slice of the story, and I want it all. I'm impatient, and
imagine how Giorgio feels.
There's just no resolution. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she wants resolution too. So, and based on nothing that I've seen in the future, I still feel like she was, from what I saw, that she was younger at the time of whatever this flashback is, and that it has something to do with a real turn of who she was. So I don't have enough to go on even with future knowledge, but just from the knowledge of this episode, I just feel like it was something that made her go like full mirror universe, if you know what I mean.
So it's like could be like a formative incident, which would make sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we know that she had children, because she does say at one point to Laurel in season 2 that if she didn't have people to feed them, she would never gotten anything done. So in other words, she had wet nurses take care of her children.
Yeah.
So there were children. Whether any of them are still living, who knows?
Indeed. Interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities there. And again, like I say, it's just too wide open right now for me to put anything together. But anyway. So yeah, this mission to to get the black box, to rescue Book, is to this starship graveyard. Do we get a name of that planet or anything? I can't.
I call it Ho Ho. It's like Hun Hao or something, but I just call it Ho Ho.
All right, that works. Yeah, and we get this. It's a starship graveyard, basically, kind of encircling this planet, and we see a bunch of 23rd century ships, mostly, but in the debris and in the salvage, there's 23rd century, some 24th century stuff, which is kind of cool. And one looks to me, and this is the ship geek in me coming out, the one ship that one of the ones that plummets towards the end looks like a Miranda class, like the Reliant from Star Trek 2, which I'm like, ooh, that's cool. So I do have to say the visuals in this were really striking, and like the Hiawatha type ship that they fly by, that's
medical
all dilapidated.
Frigate,
yeah, beautiful effect shots.
Very much so.
Yeah, and that's the one, of course, that we see like plummet into the building at the end, which is pretty impressive.
It was very impressive and very well done and looked very realistic, even though we have to realize that probably 99.9% of that was digital. But it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel digital. It felt very real. So.
Yeah, I was really surprised that shot of it coming down and hitting the ground, like it had weight to it. Like it really felt like they did a really good job with the physics there, I think.
Yes, agree.
So yeah, we get this, like I said, this salvage yard. We have Book there, and also an Andorian who's part of the prison population named Rin, who we're eager to talk about for various reasons, I'm sure.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead? Let's talk about Rin a bit.
Yeah, okay. I had no idea who was playing him. First off, I thought he looked vaguely familiar, but I didn't know why. And I didn't really watch the credits after we watched the screener, excuse me, not streamer. And so on the day that the episode was released to the public, all of a sudden I found out who he was. I'm like, I should have known that. I should have known that. In case you guys didn't know, that was Noah, who is Mary Wiseman's husband. And I want to say, what is his last name? Avercatch? I can't remember. Aver something. Haverbach Katz. That's it. And he just goes by Noah AK on Twitter because his name is very long. So, but once I knew that, I'm like, of course, because it was the eyes that kept getting me, and he has very distinctive eyes.
Mhm.
And once I found out that that's who it was, and oh my word, is that guy cool or what? He is just so adorable. I want to pinch his cheeks. Just he made this compilation video of all of a lot of different photos of him in various stages of life, just being a Star Trek nerd, and it's just the most heartfelt thing.
That's really cool. Oh, I think we might have temporarily lost Brandy again. Yeah. So the one thing I will say about this guy too is Mary Wiseman has said that she had a boyfriend who helped her get used to Star Trek because, she didn't know a lot about it when she was cast. And of course, this is that guy. So, now, of course, her husband, but yeah, she relied on him a lot when she was learning how to be in Star Trek, basically, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's just adorable. No, don't be sorry. It was wow. I just really appreciate that. Yeah, I froze. I froze.
Whoops.
Twice in one time. Nah.
Don't worry, it's all good. It's all good. Stuff happens. It's live. We're the Unready room.
Yeah. In any case, he is just really adorable and very interactive with the fans and kind to the fans. And the fans are being very kind to him as well. They should be. And I just appreciate that he's now really a part of the Star Trek family.
How cool is that story, right? Like your girlfriend gets cast in Star Trek. You're a huge Star Trek fan. And then like you get to be on Star Trek, after a couple of years. So cool. Yeah. But I mean, cool. and not undeserving as well. He was in the same class at Juilliard with Mary Wiseman and
Mary Chieffo.
Mary Chieffo, thank you, who plays Laurel. So he's a good actor in and of himself. It's not a not a strictly nepotism thing. So
no, definitely they don't really go with terrible actors up in Discovery. So
not usually.
If someone's on there, it's because they're good. It's not because of who they're married to or who they're friends with or what have you. Unless it's like somebody just walking by in a scene, then that's a friend of the producer. But everybody else, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm going to be really rude and say, and Tig Notaro, because she's Tig Notaro.
Tig Notaro, yes.
That's allowed. That's okay.
Absolutely.
As much trouble as she has with the technobabble, it's okay. She's Tig Notaro. It's fine.
Yeah. And she's great. That's the thing. She's great. It's not just because she's friends with Alex Kurtzman, because that relationship existed before he was, working on Discovery. So it was just one of those things where he used his influence to say, hey, let's put this character on. And she agreed. And she's fantastic. And we love her.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So no one's complaining.
So this character of Rin, interesting, of course, an Andorian, and the Emerald Chain is Andorians and Orions, but he kind of fell from grace and had his antennae lopped off and is now kind of the kind of a warden. Yeah, kind of a warden of the place, but also a prisoner, obviously, as well. Really interesting character. I have seen some people online talking like, well, Shran's got his lopped off and he said it grows back in 6 months. I would say that's with medical attention and proper care. These looked like they were pretty mangled. I think they were.
It seemed like they were also cauterized.
Yeah, it looked like that to me as well.
To make sure that they didn't grow back. So
I feel like the loss of them, we saw Shran and he was kind of out of sorts, didn't have his balance and that kind of thing. I feel like this guy, with having them off, he acted it perfectly with this like deep lack of confidence and kind of submissiveness, which like I really felt like I was like, this guy has been beaten down, and
he really has.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed his part in the episode. I'm so glad he wasn't killed off. I'm so
Yes.
happy he's alive at the end.
Yes, thank you for not being typical in that regard, Discovery. You win a
Mm-hmm.
point. So, yeah, the minute he shoves Book out of the way and takes that hit, I'm like, oh, great. Now he's going to die. Now
Yeah.
he's going to die. And I had my tissue ready and I was just super upset. And I'm like, wait, what? What? He's still alive? Wait, what? Oh my, oh, he's alive? At the end of the episode, he's still alive? I was super excited.
I do have to say, at that moment, like I was watching with Nikki, and at that moment, I just looked at her and went, because I thought, yeah, he's dead. And I'm like, oh, come on. But
Yeah.
no, never mind. Whoops. Made an
Mm.
assumption. And yeah, I'm so glad they kept. I hope he has a role going forward. And I feel like he would be a big help dealing with the Emerald Chain and stuff. So I won't ask for anything, but that's my personal hope.
Yeah, I think honestly, that's anyone who had any kind of feeling for the character. I think that's everybody. Everybody wants to see him again. And frankly, they don't. It's not like they're going to keep him alive for nothing. This isn't an episode of Voyager where you see this character one time and then never again, you know?
Hashtag
So,
baby.
so yeah, it's one of those things that I immediately felt like, oh, he lived, so we are going to see him again. And because he has seemingly a different relationship with Osira, there's going to be a connection there later as well. Those were my initial feelings the first time I saw that. I thought, oh, well, we have a named villain now. We're going to see that villain at some point.
Yeah. I did note the name dropping of Osira a bunch of times, and then the lack of ever seeing them. So yeah, I did note that. That's interesting for sure. Okay. Burnham and Book. So they start their romance, I guess, in this episode, it seems.
You guess? I'm sorry, the kiss in the elevator, excuse me, turbo lift, wasn't enough?
The kiss in the turbo lift, combined with the music, combined with the camera spinning around them 360 degrees 5 times. I'm not as invested in this moment as the director is. I'm sorry. I saw it as like an inevitable thing and like, yay, okay, that's cool. But boy, I feel like they were going over the top a bit with that moment. That's just me, but I'm gonna fill up space while Brandy comes back and responds to my opinion there. Anyway, but yeah.
I'm back. That's 3. Good grief, what are you doing? What are you doing, you stupid router?
It's all good. It's all good. Oh, Marg, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I love Saturday nights with Dan and Brandy and my friends here. We love our nights with all of you here as well. This is awesome.
Indeed. Yes. Okay, this is how I feel about the whole Book and Michael thing. This is a huge step for Michael. Okay? Because let's think about her first and only relationship. And how that went.
I love that it's brought up in this episode. Giorgio's like, Tyler was a disaster.
Yeah, that was a disaster, and she was scarred from that. So I was very proud of her for being able to move forward and to actually let herself be vulnerable enough to care in that way for someone again. So it was something that I feel they've already been building up to. And so I wasn't surprised when it happened. And they did the typical Hallmark movie crap where they get interrupted by Linus.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, don't you? And once again, they subvert expectations and he just kisses her anyway. So.
Oh, see, that's funny you say that, because that's what I totally expected was going to happen. It's going to be awkward and he's just going to go in for the kiss. And
no, that's usually not how it works. So it was nice to see it work that way for once.
Okay, see, I've I feel like I've seen that scene play out that way a bunch of times in a bunch of stuff, but I maybe not.
I have not.
Um, okay, but yeah, my issues with how it was shot is not an indictment of how important I think this moment
Sure.
is, and I think it is very important. I think it's needed and all that stuff. The cliche of Linus jumping in.
Just Linus in this entire episode.
Linus in this entire episode I enjoy and thought was funny. There's something about that moment, and not just that it's interrupting this in kind of a cliched way, but also I don't know, the reading of that line, and I know it's through a ton of makeup and all that stuff, but he's like, "This isn't the science lab." Oh, and I'm just like, oh god. There's something like the oh, and I was just like, "Boo, was that the best take?"
Well, he isn't human, so he's not going to necessarily react to
No, of
other
course not.
things the same way. He was doing his best human impression.
I like that. And I do like what they were going for, which was to make it like as awkward as possible. Like that's what I think they were trying to do. The scene, just the way it was shot and stuff, it just didn't work that well for me. I feel like, and this is what I said when I recorded the Positively Trek episode about this, is there are moments in this episode where I feel like I'm seeing the seams of the episode a little bit more than usual. I'm usually very immersed in what's going on, and there's just a few times in this episode where I'm like bumped out of it a little bit, and I'm very aware I'm watching actors on a television show being filmed, which is again not an uncommon thing in any TV show whatsoever. I've been spoiled by the last 3 or 4 episodes of Discovery where I've not felt that way once, which is very rare. So that's all.
I didn't feel that way, but
fair enough.
It's okay.
Yeah, that is absolutely okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Stamets and Adira and their I See Dead People support group, which I absolutely love. I love the like budding relationship between these two. And by budding relationship, I mean mentor-mentee relationship, and relationship in the very broad sense of the word.
Yes. I appreciated every scene that they were in together, and just how caring Stamets is, and how we're seeing the side of him that we haven't seen as much when he's not hopped up on mushrooms, if you know what I'm saying. Because, when he first started traveling the mycelial network, and he was just kind of all like, yeah, dude, oh, no problem. It's just a happy accident that you ran into me. It's no big deal. And, he's not that Stamets anymore, which wasn't the real Stamets anyway. But I love that he has kind of just started mentoring Adira, because he is the same. He is the same type of person. The person who just wants to do his thing and be left alone. But he has learned how to have friends now. And his relationship with Culber is stronger than it's ever been. And he's in a better place to actually recognize these things about himself in Adira and help her through that. And I just love how kind he is to her, and how understanding, and how he doesn't just dismiss anything that she says. That is, because kids especially get dismissed a lot. Like
Absolutely.
they don't know what they're talking about. And he's not making that mistake. So, and the genuine thanks that he gives Adira for upgrading his interface with the spore drive. He was just really grateful. And really grateful when she figured out how to get those shunts out of him. And when she explained that she was talking to her boyfriend, he was just like, okay. And she didn't expect that. And
Absolutely.
I love that about him, because he's learned that life and death are not necessarily what he thought they were. Not necessarily finite things. So he's been through that before, and now he has someone who understands what that's like, and they're probably two of the fewest people in the galaxy who actually understand that.
Absolutely. I love that these two characters have kind of found each other, and I love that point of commonality between them, and how it gets called out explicitly by Culber in that scene at the end.
That scene at the end.
That was such a great scene. I love those two together. And the line, is it Culber who says, anyway, when Stamets is saying, Adira, she keeps to herself and just wants to work all the time and blah, blah, blah. And Culber, oh, does that remind you of anyone? And then also the commonality, of course, that they both fell in love with, or not fell in love with, but had a close relationship with a dead person who isn't really gone, and until it was put in those terms, I didn't quite make that connection back when I was like, oh, a lot of people on Discovery see people who aren't there, right? We have this going on. We had Stamets seeing Culber, and we had Tilly seeing May Ahern. But yeah, these two are really the really close ones because of that shared experience, and I thought that was really fascinating.
And I feel like the scene before Stamets even comes in, when basically Adira's in the floor doing stuff, and Gray is chiding her and saying, hey, isn't there like a basketball court here? They've got bocce, and I've only seen where you live, where you sleep, where you work, where you sleep, and where you eat. Why aren't we making new memories together? Which is more support for my argument that Gray is really there and not just her interacting with Gray's memories.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I guess the last kind of main thing I want to talk about is the resolution to the whole Burnham, Saru, Admiral triangle, I guess. I'll throw him in there too. That would be interesting.
The command triangle.
So I think the most interesting part of this to me was the Admiral's reaction, where he says, we've gotten some actionable evidence here, which is a win. If you'd have come to me and explained this to me, I might have sanctioned this. I'm not convinced that he would have based on that, but
he did say might.
In hindsight, 2020, sure. 2020, not the horrible year, 2020 hindsight. He might have sanctioned the mission. That's an admiral's prerogative to be able to say that maybe I would have. So I thought that was interesting, that it opens up the idea that Saru made a judgment, an error in judgment as well, in that he was a little maybe too concerned with presenting a front to the admiral that shows like, we're part of the fleet, we're ready to fall in line, we'll be good little soldiers, we will we're not going to rock the boat. And maybe Saru should have been ready to rock the boat a little bit because of their unique position and experiences and that kind of thing. And Burnham, goes to Saru and it gets stopped there. I think Saru takes that a little bit on himself as well, and the admiral kind of mentions that a little bit. But of course, Burnham did do the illegal, unsanctioned thing as well and gets busted, not down in rank, but out of the position of first officer, and is just the senior science officer now. So, what do you think of the position Saru's in and the decision he makes here?
It was the only decision he could make, honestly. Because Vance does say the only reason that she wasn't in the brig is because she saved lives, which is kind of her thing, saving lives, like all sentient life in the universe and whatnot. So again, responsibility hoarder. But I knew the moment that she disobeyed his order that she was going to get fired from being first officer. I knew that. I think it is interesting that, because Vance does bring up a good point. If Saru had talked to Vance about this situation, what would he have lost if he had said no? Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't get a yes if you don't ask at all.
Mhm.
So he now knows that about himself. And I think that it's going to make him an even better captain. Because here's the thing. Saru has not had the luxury of processing everything the way the rest of the crew have. Because he's the captain, he's the leader, he's the one that has to set an example for everyone on that ship. And he doesn't have the luxury of second guessing and hemming and hawing about things. He makes command decisions.
Mhm.
That's what he has to do. And so whatever decision he makes, he has to live with that. But each decision he makes that maybe is not the best one teaches him something. That's what
Mhm.
our mistakes do if we're not sociopaths. Our mistakes teach us things. So if you can't learn from your mistakes, you're probably a sociopath. Just saying.
Yeah.
So I think, and Michael does say that he made the right decision. He didn't need that affirmation. He already knew.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. But there is one thing he said that absolutely destroyed me. And it didn't really land the first time that I watched the episode. I think it landed more because I had subtitles on the second run, and I know I'm going to get emotional. So bear with me. I'm already getting upset. Saru says to Michael that perhaps one of his reasons for wanting her to be his first officer is to return to some semblance of the way things were.
Yeah.
But things are not how they once were. And this is where they are now. And now they have to figure out how to go forth from here. And it's just, again, so kind of like just slapping me in the face of how we as a world, but especially as a nation here in America, will not accept the reality that our reality has been forever altered. There
Mhm.
is no getting back to normal. Normal is gone. It's been gone for several months, and we won't accept it. We won't accept that we need to take these precautions to keep other people alive. And that is something that shows a lack of empathy and caring for just life itself. And because we won't accept this reality that we have created, 254,000 people are dead.
Mhm.
And luckily, the stakes were not that high for Michael and Saru. But they are very high right now. And until we can accept that we need to write our future instead of trying to return to the past, nothing is going to get better. So for God's sake, please just put on a mask.
Absolutely. Somebody, I'm gonna talk a little bit about locally where I live now, which is not the United States. It's Alberta, Canada. In North America, 38 states and 9 provinces have instituted mandatory mask, um, orders. And in Canada, there are 10 provinces. I live in the one province that won't take this simple step.
Mm-hmm.
In our population, we had 1,300 and some new cases of COVID yesterday. Ontario, which has 10 million more people than Alberta does, had 200 new cases yesterday, and they're going into lockdown because of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, and and forgive me for the language I'm going to be using. I don't know why in this province our government is a Trump Republican US style government at the moment, because and apologies, lumping all of America, that's not the case, I know, but it's like they're taking all of the cues from this horrible person, and I don't understand how any sane person can see what's happened and what's been happening and do that. This isn't this isn't this isn't theoretical. This isn't a on paper problem. This is real people, real people's lives, and real deaths. And the evidence is there, and it's stark. It's apparent. You can't deny it unless you're really, really determined to deny it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know how sane people, and I'm using that qualifier very deliberately, sane people can look at that and say what's happening is that's just the price we pay.
No, it should never be. Human lives should never be considered just a price we have to pay. Mm-hmm. Because to me, that is the thing that has the most value on this planet. And here where I live, our governor said that it was okay by him if people went ahead and gathered for Thanksgiving. You know, we had a stricter mask mandate put in. People still aren't abiding by it because my liberty. I don't know how saving people's lives became a political argument, but it needs to stop. This is not about politics. It's about life and death. It's about protecting those people around us. You don't know if you're even a carrier, if you can spread this disease far and wide and have zero symptoms. Zero symptoms. And so why you can't have the compassion to just wear a scrap of fabric over your mouth and nose is beyond my ability to understand. How more people have died from COVID-19 than in flu from the last probably 5 years or more. Mm-hmm. And it's not getting better. We keep having spikes. We had over 4,500 new cases in this state yesterday. And 18 more people dead. Oh, that's a small percentage. No, every one of those people that died had people who loved them, had family, had friends, and now they're dead because people wouldn't wear a mask.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like I said, I'm sorry if this triggers anyone. Because you think it's an infringement on your liberties. Yeah, well, you not being willing to save lives is an infringement on everyone's liberties, frankly. Mm-hmm. Their liberty to, I don't know, keep living. So yeah. I'm not mincing words.
They're not going to do it, but anybody who thinks that wearing a mask is an infringement on your liberty needs to Google what being ventilated is. Yeah. And you know, if you got the disease, if you caught the virus and you're asymptomatic, well, good for you. Other people aren't, and have a bit of compassion. Absolutely. Yeah. One thing I want to say right now also is I've struggled. I'm going to be really honest here. I've struggled over the past however long with having a YouTube channel that talks about Star Trek, doing these weekly talks talking about Star Trek, which seems like a really fluff thing in the grand scheme of things. And there have been times where I feel like, you know, what am I doing here when there's so many other things that, you know, we could be talking about, blah, blah, blah. This right here proves that it's not a waste of time, and it's important because at the very least, it gives us relief from this. And at times like this, it maybe lets us talk about some things that we wouldn't otherwise, because it's relevant and you know, this wasn't planned. We didn't plan to talk about mask mandates and COVID-19. And apologies for people who came here to escape that. It's the world we're living in. It's a part of everything. But I think these frank talks are necessary, and when they come out, I think I think it's good to air them out. And Star Trek can seem like fluff sometimes, but also it can seem incredibly relevant. So,
and I don't think that anything has been more relevant for what we're going through right now than this season of Discovery.
Absolutely.
It's like every single week, there is something that is pertaining exactly to the situation we're in right now.
Absolutely. And Reinhardt68, thank you so much, first of all. And I want to share your comment here. And there have been many other comments like this as well, of course. Our family has gone through it. My wife was in the hospital about 4 months ago with COVID-19. She's okay. She's back at work. This is real. And I'm so happy that she recovered. That's awesome news. That's wonderful. Yeah, this is real. Like, I know people who've tested positive and been asymptomatic, and I know people who've tested positive and ended up in the hospital. And I know people, not personally, I've been lucky. I've been very lucky, but I know people via other people who have come down with it, been hospitalized, and sadly passed away. So it's absolutely real. Absolutely.
I think that some of this may stem from there's no physical, tangible enemy to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they can't see it, it's not real.
Yeah. And I have some sympathy for people who are frustrated. I'm frustrated. Everybody's frustrated.
Yeah, well, everybody's frustrated, but also we're alive for the moment.
Absolutely.
But we're not going to stay alive if we keep behaving so irresponsibly.
Yeah. I know there was, I think, somebody in my home province here of Alberta who was 20 who passed away from COVID in the last week. One of those headlines you see pass by, and for whatever reason, I didn't click on it because there's just so much of it. But I remember seeing that, so I can't speak to authority on that. But it's people with other conditions, people who are older. Just because you're not one of them, I don't know how to make the argument that you should care about other people.
Yeah, if you can't.
I know most of the people I'm talking to are people in the chat here. I'm preaching to the choir. I know. Right. You guys are awesome. I know I'm not talking to you when I'm expressing the frustration at some people and their attitudes. We have a wonderful group here who are all really awesome. So just know that if I'm sounding frustrated, it's not directed at you. I know.
Well, I think that they already do know that, Dan, because they know you. So I don't think you need to worry about that.
No. Well, this got really heavy. So
sorry, I couldn't not say it. I couldn't not bring
absolutely.
it up.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great conversation. I think it was a necessary one as well. And I think it's interesting that these things, of course, will stay on the channel for years, and it's an interesting time capsule of what we're living through and the real pain that we're experiencing, and on behalf of other people and ourselves. So yeah, there's no need to apologize whatsoever. It's yeah. That's all I can say. There's no need to apologize at all.
Oh, I wasn't apologizing, really.
Yeah, no, I
know. I wasn't really apologizing. I mean, I know that there will be people who will be triggered by what I said. So
I just want to highlight that.
Thank you.
That would be great. Bing.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
yeah, everybody who has been a regular viewer of the Unready Room knows that I get emotional because where so many people seem to not have any uh, compassion for the rest of humanity, I, on the other hand, am overflowing with it to the point of pain. So, yeah, I'm gonna call this out when I see it. And honestly, I will never think that Trek is frivolous because Trek, from its inception, has been teaching social lessons couched in metaphors in science fiction, which is something the Twilight Zone also did very, very well. And if you can't recognize those lessons now, after all these years of Trek being on television.
Oh, very poor timing again. I'm assuming Brandy has frozen. Yeah, but I think that's a very good point. Science fiction in general and Star Trek in particular has always been very much about reflecting the world that we live in. And I think whether it's, I mean, coincidentally or not, this season has been so needed at this time for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I kind of summed up what I think you were trying to say there.
You know exactly what I was trying to say. I'm sure that you do. So, yeah, basically, Trek is relevant always. And just right now, it's just relevant in the extreme.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, anything else we want to say about the episode?
Let's see. Anything else that we want to say about the episode?
Can I very quickly
Please
shout out
do.
the USS Le Guin for science fiction writer Ursula K. Le Guin, who passed away just a couple years ago. Mwah! Beautiful. Thank you for that. That's all I wanted to say.
That made me very happy too, because I have read Ursula Le Guin books and Octavia Butler. So yeah, just those ladies killing it. Well, still killing it even from the beyond.
Absolutely. No. Yeah. So yeah, final thoughts / rating.
I enjoyed this episode more than a lot of people. So enjoy is a strange word because it has a lot of what some people might think of as fluff or, contrived circumstances, but it also has some really powerful moments for characters as well. And we get to see Tilly with a cat. So.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
I think maybe that she's not a cat person because of her allergies, because she does have special needs in that regard and has to have a specific kind of sheet set for her bed. So that's probably part of it. And
I wondered that because I did remember that detail from season 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that interaction. I love that they mentioned self-sealing stem bolts, and I honestly, the way that I feel about this episode is kind of the way that everyone feels about having all of their new technology. I think it was actually better than some people give it credit for, but everybody has their own thing. Different strokes for different folks, and I'm not saying that I'm right and someone else is wrong. I'm just saying that I saw things differently in this episode than most people. So
yeah, no, like I said, I definitely enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed a lot of the especially the Giorgio character bit, making me feel sympathy for her. I think was a very strong part of the episode for sure. Yeah, and the way I put it is I just feel like it was showing it seems a little bit more than the last few have, and I've been spoiled by how good the last few episodes of Discovery have been. This is literally the first one in this whole season where I've kind of had to think for a minute at the end of the episode how I felt about it, because I didn't overwhelmingly, absolutely, completely 100% love it. So
And that's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and that's not a slight on it, really.
No. One thing that I forgot to mention that is just absolutely hilarious is Michael reverse engineering the cat tracker, but still every time she turns it on, it meows.
Yep. And the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, did I just hear? So I really looked out for it the second time around, and that was really funny. I did like that. So as far as a rating goes, I think I give it. How am I going to phrase this? I'm going to give it an inappropriate Linus popping in. So,
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So some kind of I'm seeing between about 7 and 10, somewhere in there, of most people. It was a good Star Trek episode. It was more towards the average side than Discovery has been lately, I think, is how I see it myself. But that's just me, again. Absolutely.
And that's just fine. You feel how you feel.
Definitely. So Brandy, where can people know you online when you're not gracing us with your wonderful presence here on Saturday evenings?
When I'm not making people uncomfortable with my crying, you can find me over on Twitter at Brandywine12, where you can keep up with most of my goings and comings and the stuff I'm doing. I do 3 podcasts about Star Trek at Holosuite Media, which is What the Future Holds, Star Trek Discovery podcast with my husband Dave and our good friend Christopher D. Littlefield. Boldly Go, Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast, what I do with my friend Suzanne, who made, again, this magnificent thing. And also the Vedic Assembly. Oh, why? What did you do? What I missed?
I was just zooming in.
Oh, you were doing a close-up. Okay.
Yeah.
And then also the Vedic Assembly about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We just recently had Jesse Gender on to talk about Jadzia Dax and Esri Dax and symbionts in general. And that'll be coming out, well, as of this time right now, it'll be coming out in about 12 days. So look for that. And you can find those all on holosuitemedia.com, or just follow me on Twitter and find them there. I'm not even going to talk about all the things. I do another live show, though, on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which is Infinite Trek. We will not be having an episode on Thanksgiving weekend, but on Black Alert Friday, we are going to be doing Treksgiving. We're going to be doing like a 3-hour hangout with a bunch of Trek people. You're going to be there, Dan. Bruce is going to be there. Yep. Larry Nemechek's going to be there. Bill from Trek Geeks is going to be there. Jesse's going to be there. Kat Walsey's going to be there. So a lot of Trek people coming together to just shoot the bull and talk about Trek and just be thankful that we have Trek and have each other. So come join us. It'll be broadcast, I believe, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So that'll be interesting.
That's cool.
But you can, you can, if you want to know more information about that, you can find the postings on Facebook about that. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, why? But if you are, you can find it in my timeline anyway, because I kept sharing everything about it. So, yeah. And then everything else, just go to my Twitter account and you'll see posts about what I'm doing. So,
nice.
Brandywine12.
That's a good question. Patrick asks, will it be available to watch later? I'll be at work when it's going on.
Yes, it will be available to watch later. Yes.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. And you can find me, of course, on this channel where I'm mostly making videos about Star Trek, sometimes Star Wars lately. I know. There was a baby Yoda back behind me at one point, but he had to move back upstairs to watch The Mandalorian with us. So,
Of course.
of course, yeah. And you can find me on Positively Trek. That's the podcast that I do with Bruce Gibson. Some interesting episodes coming up. Of course, Monday will be our review of this episode. And then Tuesday, we have Glenn Dakin on, who recently wrote 3 Star Trek books. The Nerd Search. He wrote that Quibbles with Tribbles.
Yes, I love it.
He also wrote the Star Trek Cocktails book that came out recently, and the mindfulness book featuring Mr. Spock quotes and helping people cope with an illogical world, which is something we really need right now. So
I need that one really bad.
So yeah, that'll be out on Tuesday, and then Friday we have another book club episode with Greg Cox, and we talk to him about his most recent TOS novel, A Contest of Principles. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and look forward to hearing that. It was a great conversation. We recorded it last week, so it's in the can, ready to go. I think that's just about everything. Follow me on Twitter at Kurtrats and Positively Trek at Positively Trek. We made it really easy for you. So
simple. You can't afford not to join up with all of these things. Didn't say that very well. Yeah. Join us.
Yeah, join us and join us, especially at the Positively Trek discussion group on Facebook. That's a lot of fun. Just answer some questions and agree to the rules. We'll let you right in. Bruce came up with a slogan for it, and that slogan is "You're among friends." And it's also a slogan that was used a few years ago by a restaurant chain here in Canada, oddly enough, called Boston Pizza. So we're talking to our lawyers and making sure there's no kind of infringement there, but we think we're okay. Yeah, it's Boston Pizza. It was started in Western Canada. It has something to do with possibly the Boston Bruins and a former player on the team starting it, maybe. I could be wrong about that. It's a whole thing. Google Boston Pizza. They have great pizza, but you have to be in Canada, I think. I don't think there's any in the States, which is weird. Yeah.
Whatever.
My Canadian friends in the chat can back me up with that, I think. So anyway, yeah, thank you all so much for watching once again, and join us next week for Unification 3. I'm interested. I think Brandy is frozen again, so I'm going to use that opportunity to say goodnight. Maybe I'll leave it up for a few seconds so Brandy can say goodbye as well. Maybe. It's a little awkward now. It's a little awkward. All right. Good night, everybody. Take care.